Welcome to Warfighter Advance, Coming Home at Last, a podcast by and for veterans. Warfighter Advance is an organization whose mission is the successful reintegration of every warfighter. Hi, I'm Michael Arndt, a Vietnam combat veteran and a member of the Board of Directors of Warfighter Advance. Welcome to the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Joining me today is Mark Thompson. Mark is an alumnus of the Warfighter program and currently serves as the Warfighter Chaplain. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Mark, begin by talking about your military history and experience.
Okay, well, it's funny. It's a long journey for me. I actually started out going back a little bit to my history, how I even got into the military. I was actually running away from God at the time. And so I figured I'd join the military and that would get me away from God. It didn't, but that's later in the story. But I joined the Army in 1980 as an MP. And went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, and did my basic. And then they sent me to Germany, where I was forced into terrible duty, playing tennis and racquetball and teaching snow skiing and Garmisch-Partenkirchen for the Army.
Terrible duty.
Terrible duty, awful duty. And stayed there for a couple years and then got out and stayed there for a couple more years as a civilian until I got my calling into the ministry. When I went into the ministry, I knew I wanted to be a chaplain. I'd been in the Army, I'd seen chaplains in the Army, and I wanted to do that. So went back, finished my undergraduate degree, and then went and did my graduate degree in Dayton, Ohio. And while I was doing that, there's a program in the military called Chaplain Candidate Program. The Air Force has it, the Navy has it, and the Army has it. Well, I actually started in the Air Force. I was an Air Force chaplain, reservist, and went through that program. And then for the first Gulf War, I was stationed at Offutt Air Force Base. Let me back up. I was pastoring United Methodist Church in Papillion, Nebraska. And then they sent me to Offutt Air Force Base, which is there right around the corner. And I served for the Gulf War at Offutt Air Force Base. Right after that, they had the big cutbacks in the military. So they came and said, well, if you want to go active duty, you're going to have to either do the Navy or the Army if you want to be a chaplain, if you want to be active duty, which I did. So I had friends in the Navy, and Navy is a little difficult for chaplains, so I decided, well, I'll give the Army a shot. And because I'd been in basic training, I had worn a uniform that actually gave me a leg up when I joined the Army Chaplains Corps. Went to the basic course at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, and then got my first deployment at Fort Hood, Texas. Now, I don't know how involved you want me. I mean, Fort Hood and then Okinawa, Japan. Then I got selected for a school called CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. The Army offers it as a doctoral program, and you basically spend a year in training to be a hospital chaplain or a prison chaplain or a hospice chaplain. And then you become what they call a board-certified hospital chaplain. And I did that and then spent a 3-year utilization tour there in Eisenhower, and then got my first combat assignment.
Where was that?
That was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st Airborne, 50 Deuce. I went to war with them, and in '92 and then '93, and then came back after the war was over. Came back to Fort Gordon again, and to the hospital, and did a couple of other jobs, and eventually made lieutenant colonel, and they sent me back to Fort Hood as a Deputy 3 Corps chaplain at Fort Hood. While I was there for about a couple of years, and then I was diagnosed with cancer. And so they sent me back to Eisenhower. I'd been the chief of the Department of Pastoral Care there, administering pastoral care, and knew a lot of the folks there, my own surgeon. He and I were good friends, and so I decided that would be a good place for get my treatment. Got my treatment, was cancer-free, everything was good, and I was about to get out, lieutenant colonel, and the board for 06 full colonel came up, and I did not think I had a chance. I was actually applying for jobs, and the board came out, and I made 06 and got to stay, and they asked me to actually stay right there at Fort Gordon. So I did my last 5 years in the military at Fort Gordon.
Wow. So What happened after you left the military, after you retired?
Well, after I retired, I was going to retire. That was my plan. But the Methodist Church said they had a need for for a pastor, and it was only going to be 3 months, 3 to 6 months. I said, okay. 3.5 years later, I was going to retire again. 2 weeks before I was going to retire, they call him a district superintendent, came to me and said, well, we've got another church that needs a pastor. Would you mind 6 months? That's all you got to do. Well, it's now been 3.5 years. And I'm in a place called Gilbert, South Carolina, right outside of Lexington, South Carolina, and Columbia, South Carolina. Wonderful little United Methodist Church, wonderful, wonderful place, and really, I'm really enjoying my retirement. It's a part-time job. I get to do that. I get to do my deer hunting, play a lot of tennis, play some golf. So life's pretty good.
How did you hear about Warfighter Advance?
You know, I had a friend of mine who had been in the hospital ministry had been here and mentioned it to me. And this goes back to my first deployment. I was really struggling after my first deployment. In all of that, I'd been married for 20 years and went through a divorce, and just really struggled with some substance abuse through that period of time. And I knew I needed something. I knew that I was going in the wrong direction, and so I came here. And my current wife supported me. And she said, you know, go and spend the week. And I came as one of the participants, and it changed my life.
So what happened at that evolution that changed your life?
Well, I think for the first, part of it is, and I'm trying to remember the terminology we use in clinical pastoral education, CPE, the normalization of experience. I thought I was the only one that was feeling like this. Now, one of the problems with chaplains is we have fatigue and compassionate fatigue. In other words, we work with soldiers who are dying and who have died. I've done over 300 memorial services in my 27 years in the military, and it just overwhelms you. You're supposed to be the tough one. You're supposed to be the one that's helping people, but you don't realize that you're going downhill. You can only keep so much of that in. And what this program helped me do was to let it go. And I was able to share my story, which is, again, very important, in a very safe, open environment, a very caring environment, around people that were just like me, that had struggled the same struggles that I've had. So that was why it made a huge difference in my life.
And then you returned to Warfighter Advance and
have
been a chaplain for a number of evos at this point.
Yeah, I believe this is number 6 as a chaplain. I love the program. I love being a chaplain. Being a chaplain's a little different than being a pastor. There's just a different feel to it. It's more of what we call a ministry of presence. I don't have to say a lot. I don't do sermons or anything like that. I am a Protestant, but we don't talk about religion here. If an individual wants to come and have a session with me and spend time with me and talk about theology or their religion or their struggles, yeah, I can do that. But as a group, we don't do that here. But I can be there and be present. And half the time, I learned a long time ago, sometimes it's better just to be there than to say anything and be stupid.
What kinds of experiences have you seen among warfighters as you've been in the chaplain role?
Now, it's amazing, and it's not the same for every person. Each person is going to have to process this in his or her own way. And some people get it the first time. Some people have to come back and go through the program again. Some people stay with the program and progress, and some people just let it go. But for me, watching the transition, and I'm sure some of your other guests have talked about this. So in day one, everybody, and again, because I've done it myself, I have a real idea of what they're feeling. There's apprehension. They're not sure what the heck they're doing here, if this is just a waste of their time. And some of them have been to programs that it just really wasn't a good program for them and didn't make a difference. But by the end of the week, the transition, that as they come together as a group, as they realize, again, that they have a shared experience and that this is a group who really cares about them. And when they leave here, they'll continue to be in contact with them and help them no matter what their needs are. It brings everybody together, and it's just an amazing thing to watch them come together in that sense. you have people that don't want to share a thing at the beginning, won't barely say a word, and by the end they're sharing their story, they're joking around, they're laughing with one another, they're sharing their feelings. It's a great experience.
So if you had one thing that you would say to someone who might be watching or listening to this podcast about Warfighter Advance, what would you say?
Give it a chance. And again, real upfront, real honest. Not everybody this isn't going to be the best experience for everybody, but the majority of people that I've seen, I'd say 90%, even 95% of the people, this program has made a real difference.
Well, thank you, Mark, for sharing your story with us today, and thank you for your work on behalf of Warfighter Advance.
I love it, and I appreciate the honor and the privilege of being here.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. This has been another episode of the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Welcome to another Mindful Minute with a Mentor. Joining me today is Bill Courts. Bill is an instructor at Warfighter Advance, and he's also a former officer in the Navy. Mm-hmm. Bill, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. Pleasure being here with you today.
So tell us, Bill, a little bit about your military background and the rank that you left the military in.
Okay. Well, I joined the Navy in 1984 under the Reagan build-up. I came in under a direct appointment into the Civil Engineer Corps as an officer. So I came in through the Naval Reserve, direct appointment after studying at the university in engineering, and served a 24-year career with the Naval Construction Forces and the Civil Engineer Corps, working in a variety of base support capacities pretty much throughout the world. So any type of military base and infrastructure and worldwide support, I worked in that field for 24 years and attained the rank of captain and retired after 24 years and served as a captain upon my retirement. Yep.
Well, thank you for your service,
You're
first
welcome.
of all.
Yep, you're welcome.
Bill, tell me how you heard about Warfighter first.
So I first heard about Warfighter, I think it was early on, just before the inception of it. It was at the Navigator Headquarters building, and there was an event there, and Doc Veton was one of the speakers and spoke about, and I think at the time she was still active duty military, and upon her retirement, what she was going to venture forward with and the concept surrounding it at that time. And then I heard about it in a follow-up maybe another year or two later with the Rotary Club of Lexington Park, where Doc Veton, together with Matt Scassero, who's on the board, gave a presentation to the Rotarians there, and the Rotarians gave one of the donations to help fuel the program and support the program. So heard about it just before the inception and then early on in the program. Mm-hmm.
Now, you've joined Warfighter Advance several times a week during our evolutions as an instructor of yoga.
That's correct, yeah.
So tell me about your background in yoga, how you found yoga, and what value it has for Warfighter.
Okay, absolutely. So I've had certain chronic challenges in my life with lower back pain and degenerative disc disease and chronic pain and whatnot. And I first learned about yoga in 2006 at Pax River on the base where they had a yoga program. So I was still active duty. Twice a week I would go jump in at the lunchtime sessions there and just found tremendous benefit, not only for the chronic pain and for the disc issues, lower back issues, but just found a lot of other benefits with dealing with stress and just living a more balanced life, and then just understanding some of my habitual patterns towards either stressors or challenges with modern living, and the dynamicism and stresses that's involved in that, and just how yoga gave me so many benefits over and above the pain relief and the increased mobility, but a lot of mental health benefits with resilience and being able to deal with stress better, and then just recovery and balance. Where oftentimes we get turned on and don't know how to throttle back, and just living in a state of chronic stress and some of the debilitating health effects that can have. So through the yoga, in the first 6 months, dealt with all those pain and mobility challenges, and then after that it was really just all these other benefits associated with resilience and mindfulness and living a more balanced life that just kind of came thereafter.
If you could point to maybe examples specifically pertaining to warfighters that you've witnessed as you've been an instructor, or maybe heard of, that might be benefit to those who are listening or watching this podcast.
Okay. So I joined the Warfighter, I think it was Evo 25. So I've been doing this now for over 2 years, and worked with a lot of great vets, and I think the feedback has always been very positive. And I think the way that I approach yoga is yoga is like there's this continuum with very athletic type of yoga and a very restorative type, and then there's the center part that I kind of teach from, and I kind of teach more on the restorative side, and oftentimes vets have they are it's this can-do attitude, where they're always doing and kind of always turning on and being attentive and active, and you can do that, but kind of it accumulates over time, that if you're not getting the recovery and the relaxation and able to turn off, you kind of get out of balance. So the biggest benefit I've seen with working with the vets and working with, and I'll call it conditioning the central nervous system, is that oftentimes, we're in this fight, flight, active, sympathetic nervous, response, and we don't know how to throttle back and come out of that. And the ability to throttle back and come out of that is actually very challenging for people that are that can do, military orient, where you get the job done at all costs, mission first, self second. And this just kind of reverses that, where I work with the parasympathetic nervous system and deliberate, relaxation and deep body work practices through breath work and through the yoga asanas, which are really just postures that challenge the body but also work deeply into the body. So through this process of going through a session with working with the ability to relax, recover, restore, slow down the breathing, deepen the breathing, getting out of the overthinking mind, and just kind of attuning to what's going on inside the body, getting in tune with your feelings, getting in tune with the interoception, proprioception, visualizing the body in 3 dimensions, understanding that certain tensions and stressors are held in the body, and we can release those and let those go. And then also certain imbalances or trauma, where we've had injury or illness, that we kind of have imbalances, that by working through restoring and opening up those parts of the body and just bringing healing into the body, we can restore balance. So a lot of the vets deal with neck and back and hip issues, some mobility issues, certain imbalances in the body. And through going through this practice and focusing on recovery, you kind of like open things up, bring nutrient-rich, oxygen-rich blood into the discs, into the hips, into the body, and it kind of has this holistic healing effect, and it kind of gives you what you need. So, we have trauma, injury, imbalances, habitual patterns, and some of those are actually, stress patterns, and kind of working to undo that and understand what's going on in the body. And then in yoga they say, healthy spine, healthy body, healthy mind. So, really working on the spinal column, getting things loosened up, opened up, and just improving overall health and mobility and strength and balance and healing.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today, and thank you for your service to
Oh,
Warfighter
you're welcome.
Advance.
It's my pleasure, and I'm honored to be part of this program. And it's a great program, great group of vets, and every class is special. Every class is unique, and I think everyone gets what they need out of the yoga. And sometimes the hardest thing is just learning to let go, learning to kind of relax, and it sounds easy, but at the end of each session we do a 10-minute final relaxation where you're not moving at all and you're just recovering from the sequence that we did in the session, and that's kind of where the healing jumps in, that 10-minute final relaxation where you recover, you reorient, and you just relax. Sounds easy, but for a lot of people, that can be the hardest thing to do, is just sit still and be with yourself. But it's a tremendous benefit, and it's my pleasure being part of the program and sharing my skills on this topic with the vets. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been another Mindful Minute with a Mentor on the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Thank you for joining us for the Warfighter Advance Coming Home at Last podcast. Warfighter Advance envisions a world where warfighters are fully restored through a non-medical process. To achieve that vision, Warfighter Advance sponsors 6 7-day training sessions each year to which veterans and active duty service members can apply, and for no cost to the warfighter. If you or those you know are struggling with issues related to reintegration, please contact us through our website. We are dedicated to lead the way so that every warfighter has the information, tools, and support they need to successfully reintegrate. Until next time, this is Michael Arndt on behalf of Warfighter Advance.